1.
Hey, I'm Davey Elbow from Popular Mechanics.
And I'm Darren Orff, and this is the pilot episode of a small video that we're going to be doing once a week where we talk about the week in technology and some of the interesting things that happened. And this was actually kind of a rough week to start this on because...
Lots of news.
Yeah. We'll get to some of the bigger stuff later, but first I think like a lot of people have been talking about the whole Google Nest acquisition, collaboration. So basically, for those of you who don't know, Nest is just a smart thermostat. They now have a smart smoke alarm. And basically, it's kind of like there's a lot of smart home stuff out there, but I would say it's definitely one of the leading companies.
Definitely.
It's definitely the most matured. It's definitely getting the most.
And to think that they basically started about 2 years ago, so they've gained popularity really quickly, and now Google is putting their stake in the home automation business with their acquisition of it for $3.2 billion in cash.
In cash. So that basically means that Google has just taken a giant step forward in that space. And what seems like a good acquisition at first, a lot of people have been concerned about security because not everyone trusts Google, especially just all the Snowden stuff, and actually we'll get to that later. But
the question that comes up, I guess, is will Nest be sharing its data with Google? And that hasn't been totally answered.
Yeah, I know. Tony Fadell, I think he talked with TechCrunch and said, we won't be, we're going to still be operating separately from Google. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, nor do I think Google is going to like that.
They did not say that they would share the information.
Yeah, so it's definitely up in the air. I think people who don't trust Google are a little worried, especially if they have Nest devices, but we're just going to have to see kind of what happens. But it's definitely very exciting for home automation. The other big news that came out was obviously the net neutrality ruling.
Yeah.
And so basically, let's just talk a little bit about that. So basically what happened there was net neutrality was this idea that placed common carrier laws on cable companies, allowing them to it's basically an open and free internet. Everyone kind of has the same shot. You won't get throttled if you're kind of a blog. So what does that mean going forward for maybe people who are consumers of the internet?
And this ruling, it came down against net neutrality, so it's actually sort of a step away from the free internet and just free information, so people are a little bit riled up about that. And
I think what you're going to end up seeing there is you're going to basically, it gives the cable providers, internet providers, ISPs, the right to basically charge companies like Netflix and Google, who I think are 50% of the internet traffic in America at least, can charge them higher costs to stream their content. And that can kind of give them enough power to actually regulate what the customers can see, which is not good. I'm not particularly excited about that, but hopefully the government will be able to kind of refine the language that they used in the past that's allowed this
there's
to happen.
Another chance they can still appeal that ruling, so
which most likely people are pretty mad about it, so I don't see that being kind of the be-all end-all. And then the final thing happened today. Obama talked about kind of curtailing and changing how
reforms to the NSA surveillance program.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the biggest reform that came out of that was actually the end of the bulk data collection for many Americans for phone records, particularly the metadata. So that is not actually the content of your phone calls that are getting looked at, but just the length of the call and who it's from. But you can glean a lot of information from that. So apart from that, it's being reformed. So they're saying they're halting it, but it'll exist in another form where there might be a third-party company that is in charge of all that information, or they can request data from the phone companies themselves when there is a need to, when the government thinks that there is a need to access that information.
I kind of got the feeling that Obama was basically it's not going to stop, but we're going to keep a closer eye on it. Almost.
Right. And more sort of checks and balances,
Instead of just kind of free reign. that's just kind of a strange speech in general. I felt, I don't know. It opened with Paul Revere, which I thought was kind of strange, but so that's gonna do it for this pilot episode of Tech Roundup. So we'll see you next week.